Today's video is going to be different. I want to start in a classroom environment, explain a theory, then move out to the field and apply that theory. So you're going to get practical application. Now for today's video. What is mapping your campsite? Now, before we even get started on that, we're going to assume that you're a day hiker, you're out for a scout, some mechanical injury, sprained ankle, broken arm, broken leg, twisted knee, etc., something occurred to you or with you, and you are now forced to stay out there for the evening or over the next couple days while you're waiting for rescue. The key point is you've assessed yourself and you've decided to stay put. We're also going to assume you have the proper gear, a basic kit. You have some type of tarp or poncho to create a shelter. You have some type of improvised mattress or a blow-up mattress or some type of foam pad to sleep on. You have a fire starting device. You have a canteen that you can collect water and boil that water. The basic essentials for life, we're going to assume you already have with you. You're just stuck in place. Now, you have two choices. Just lay there on the ground and hope somebody finds you, or take care of your basic needs, food, water, shelter, firewood, etc. And how do you do that? You have to wander around your current location and find those resources. It's always a good rule of thumb to start as far as you can outward and work your way inward. The reason for that, let's say you are healthy. On day 2 or 3, as you're walking around, you now sprain your ankle. Do you want to continue walking 500 or 600 or 1,000 yards out to find resources because you've already depleted all of this? Or would it have been smart to deplete all of this, then you got hurt, and now you have short distances that you need to walk? So far with this video, we've already made a lot of assumptions. 1, you're carrying a proper basic kit. 2, you've told someone where you're going. And 3, you made a proper assessment on yourself and realized that you need a shelter in place. So with that in mind, let's talk about the additional gear that you need to carry so you can map your campsite. Now, the first extra item that you're going to want in your kit is a large, bright colored 3x3 cotton bandana or shamag. Next, extra tent stakes or tent pegs. Now, if you only brought 6 and you already used them for your shelter, which is smart because your shelter and base camp are already set up, you can simply substitute sticks off of a tree and place them into the ground. And we'll talk about this later. You're going to need some type of cordage, either a number 36 bank line or paracord. And last but not least, but most important, is some type of compass that you have experience with and have actually gone out and used it. Now, in addition to those extra items, you're going to need 2 things. 1, some type of understanding of how to use a compass, meaning you're able to shoot at the very minimum an azimuth and then get the reverse azimuth. And second, you're going to need to know your pace count. Now, if you don't have any advanced knowledge, you have no idea what those are, do a simple YouTube search, Corporals Corner, pace count. Watch that video, learn how to do it. Next, Corporals Corner, basic compass. Watch it, learn how to shoot an azimuth, and then get the reverse azimuth. Then come back to this video. Let's talk about mapping the campsite. There's 2 ways to do that. 1 is by establishing a waypoint, and 2 is by actually conducting a route plan or route planning. Let's talk about the first one, waypoint. We're going to establish a waypoint. And I've covered this in several videos. All you're going to do is take your brightly colored shamag or 3x3 cotton bandana. You're going to go to the center of your campsite. Near your shelter is fine. Find the closest tree. Most of the time people put shelters between trees because they establish a ridge line and hang a tarp off of it. All you got to do, take your bright colored cloth, hang it on a branch or tie it to a branch preferably at eye level. It will flow and flutter in the breeze. And now you can walk 360 degrees or in any direction as far as your eye can see, meaning you can go out as far as you want to. As long as you can turn around and see that cloth, you can walk right back to it. The downside to this, you're limited by the terrain that you're at. Think about that. If you're in the middle of the desert, you might be able to walk 1,000 yards out, turn around, and still see this. If you're in triple canopy jungle in Thailand or Okinawa, Japan, you might get 20 yards out there and you can't see it because of how dense all the foliage is. Out here in Ohio, in some places, there's poison ivy, there's briars that grow up on sides of trees, and you can't even see past that. You got about 10, 12 feet, maybe 20 feet if you're lucky, and you can't see past it. So this method right here, theoretically, is great under the optimum conditions. You're going to get a shorter distance that you can cover by just seeing it. Let's go ahead and pretend that we can see 200 meters or 200 yards, whichever one you want to work in every direction. Here's our center of our campsite. We're going to say that this is 200 meters. And we can do this in all directions. That's the center of our campsite. Just for sake of argument, we stated that we could look 200 meters in any direction. I can walk 200 meters here, 200 meters here, 200 meters here, and so on and so forth. As long as I can see my shamag, I can walk right back to my campsite without getting lost. Downside, like we already discussed, we're limited because we can only see 200 meters. What lies out here, or over here, or down here? We have no idea. So now we're going to go to step 2, which will allow us to walk as far as we want to and always find our way back. The best part about option number 1 is that it requires 0 land navigation skills. Simply place it at eye level like we talked about, walk in any direction. As long as you can try and see this, you can walk right back to it. Now, route planning. This is where it gets complicated, but it's so easy, people tend to overcomplicate it. For route planning, like we discussed in the very beginning, you need to have knowledge, at least basic knowledge, of 2 things. 1, pace count. And 2, at a very minimum, be able to shoot an azimuth and get the reverse azimuth. For option number 2, we're going to simply combine these 2 skills, a pace count, which is keeping track of distance as you walk, and shooting a basic azimuth, and then getting that reverse azimuth. We're going to take both those skills and simply stand in front of our shelter. We're going to shoot 4 azimuths. 1 to the north, 1 to east, 1 to west, and 1 to south. And we're going to walk those azimuths. Let's just invent a number. We were limited to 200 meters up here. Let's just say 500 for sake of argument. So we're going to walk north 500 meters. Then reverse azimuth back to our shelter. We're going to do east the exact same way, 500 meters, by using our pace count. Reverse azimuth to our shelter. West, 500 meters, reverse azimuth back to our shelter. And south, 500 meters, reverse azimuth back to our shelter. We created a large plus sign. Something that's always good to put in your notes is a quick reference. North, azimuth is always 0 degrees. Reverse azimuth is 180 degrees. East is 90 degrees. Reverse azimuth, 270. South is always going to be 180. Reverse azimuth will be 0. West is 270 degrees, and the reverse azimuth will always be 90 degrees. So far, so good. You're looking outstanding. Now we're going to break it down even further. Being that we're just using the cardinal directions on our compass, what else do we have on here? Looking straight down, once I dial this into north at the very top of my compass, I have northeast. I can draw a line and walk 500 meters northeast. What else do we have? Southeast. See where I'm going with this? Next one, southwest. And last but not least, northwest. So from my shelter, I can map 8 different areas that I can walk 500 plus yards or meters out to, and then walk back successfully and never get lost. Now all this information should be in a notebook, or at least on a piece of paper, because then we're going to take that information and we're going to transfer it to the ground, and we're going to create a route plan on the ground. And I'm going to show you the last part of this puzzle that's so cool. Imagine, if you will, you're at the campsite, you're at your shelter, and let's just say, for sake of argument, northeast, there's a whole bunch of pine trees over there where you can get sap. You can get a bunch of dead pine to burn. There's green pine for the pine boughs that if you built some type of signal device, you want to throw those on there and create that smoke. And I need to get out there. Now, instead of walking this line all the way out here, once you get there, have to turn back around and walk all the way back over here because you need to get water now that's over here in the east. I can simply take this information, transfer it to the ground in a terrain model, and simply place my compass between these lines and get an azimuth from northeast to east and walk there directly. Let's get outside and get her done. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to establish our campsite. So this stake right here, we're going to say is our tarp shelter and our emergency campsite that we're stuck at for the night. Now when transferring anything from paper or a chalkboard or a notebook, etc. to the ground, you need to come up with your own unit of measure. You could say 1 inch is 100 yards. You could say 3 inches represents 100 yards. The larger the object for 100 yards, the larger your map is going to be. So for sake of argument, let's say this stick is 500 yards or 500 meters, whichever you prefer. I'm going to lay this down and we're going to start mapping out north, east, south, and west. We had north right there. The red is inside the shed. I'm going to take this stick. Keep in mind it needs to be a straight stick. Place my compass next to it. Adjust it accordingly so that red stays in the shed, and that's going to give me my cardinal direction of north. We'll place the other stake right here and pound it in. Next is east. There we go. Red in the shed. Get that same stick. Make our minor adjustments. Place that stake right there. And when you're done, you have north, east, south, west, and you have your makeshift campsite. It's not perfect, and you're only dealing with cardinal directions. And as we stated before, if that's north and that's east, what do we have right here? Northeast. East and south, we have southeast. So you can just keep adding these on here. If you chose to break it down into actual numbers like 25 degrees, you could do so as well. But why overcomplicate things? Use your cardinal directions and it'll give you a nice box right here. So now all we got to do is pull some strings to our box, and then I'll show you how to connect these lines as well. I wish I had some different color cordage, but I don't. So the important thing here is wherever you start with, whatever side, you want to end on the same side. So we're going to go right there. We're going to go around, pull it as tight as we can, go around once, and then continue on to this side over here. And a quick check, This is our north-south line. So from our campsite heading north, that line should match right up to our compass. And now we'll do the exact same thing right here. And there's our east-west line. And if you look at, we're facing west right now, and red's in the shed. Now for one last piece of the puzzle. I mentioned in the classroom that every time I wanted to go to a different direction, I had to go back to the campsite, reshoot an azimuth, and head in that direction. That was just to initially establish my locations or my azimuths. Now that we have it mapped out, I'm going to show you a quick trick to jump from one to the other. Let's say we walk to the north, and from north, I want to go east. All we got to do is shoot our azimuth and walk in that direction. But how do I get that azimuth if I don't know what it is? Well, that same bank line that we tied around these stakes, we're going to tie from north to east, east to south, and south to west. Then lay our compass on there in that direction, and you're going to get a few numbers, which is your azimuth. You write those down, and once you get to north or once you get to east, you could take your notebook, find, okay, from east I want to go south, 200 degrees. Plug it in and walk that direction. We also can do what? We can get a pace count as well. Now I want you to fully understand what we're doing here. This is our shelter at the center of our camp. We walked 500 yards or meters north. Now I want to go east. I don't want to have to walk all the way back over here and then reshoot east and then walk over here. Why? Because we're doing double the amount of walking. We're going to get wore out, dehydrated, blow through calories, and we're neglecting everything that's out over here. So all we're going to do is tie a string from north to the east, lay the compass down here and adjust our bezel ring, get our degrees and write that down. So when I walk north, I can just shoot that azimuth and walk that straight line and collect any resources in this area. From east to north, all we're going to do is we're going to rotate the bezel ring, put that red in the shed, make sure it doesn't move. We're going to read that number right there. It's 120 degrees. So I want to write that down. So I know from the campsite at 500 yards to our north point, I can stand right there and shoot a 120 degree azimuth, and I can now walk and link up with my east point. Last piece of this puzzle is, what is that distance? Our measuring stick represented 500 meters. It's roughly 1/3 more. So if you broke that in half, that's 250. Let's go ahead and add another 50 to that. Looks about 300, so we're looking at approximately 800 to 825 meters or yards, and we're going to hit east. So you saw me do that. I want to do that for the next 3 points and write them down as well. This is simple route planning, but the only route that we're planning is we're actually mapping our campsite. Now, like we discussed in the very beginning, we want to work from the outside in. Start at 500 meters. Then walk out the next time to 400 meters. Do the exact same method I showed you. Your square will now get smaller and smaller and smaller. You're going to cover the entire area, all the resources in between there, and the best part is, if you were to get hurt on the third day, guess what? All these resources are still here next to your campsite. Now, I don't want to say so simple it's stupid, because this takes practice. And like I mentioned several times in this video, you have to have basic understanding of how to shoot an azimuth and get that return or reverse azimuth, as well as have a pace count for the gear that you're going to carry. If you have both of those, you can do this anytime, anywhere. And to be brutally honest, you don't need to do it in a notebook first and then transfer it. You could actually just, as you do it, make it as you go. Go out, do one leg, come back, plot it. Go do the next leg, come back, plot it. Because initially, you have to come back each time anyways. So why not plot it right when you get back and it's fresh in your mind? Some people don't carry notebooks. I always do. It's part of every single kit that I carry. So I didn't feature that today because a lot of people don't carry those, but it's something to think about. And for those that have been asking, am I going to start teaching classes again in 2025? The answer is yes. But wait, there's more. Here's your opportunity to train with instructors from Survival Mastery. Myself, E.J. Snyder, Jake Trent from Buckeye Bushcraft, and Kenny Dietrich from Ugly Tent are going to be hosting 3 classes, March, April, and May. Simply go to uglytent.com. Once again, uglytent.com. That link will be in my video description box. Click on it, get full details. It gives gear lists, where to meet up, what facilities are available, locations that you can camp at or stay in a hotel. This is a low-key, low-impact class based on learning. We're going to do round-robin classes for 2.5 days and focus on you, the individual, ensuring that you learn versus going to a boot camp, staying up for 18 hours straight, getting beat down in the mud somewhere, which goes on all over the place. We found that there's a higher rate or turnaround rate and a higher rate of learning, putting you through all these different types of learning environments at a slower pace to make sure that you get it and understand it. So once again, myself, E.J. Snyder from Naked and Afraid, Dual Survival. He's also a published author right now. Jake Trent from Buckeye Bushcraft and Kenny from Ugly Tent are all hosting those classes, March, April, and May 2025. Go to the video description box, click on Ugly Tent, and I'll see you there. And last but not least, the Etsy store is open. Once again, my Etsy store is open. And what do we got this week? As usual, we have our 100 Corporals Corner skillets dropping right now. We have my personal favorite, the Corporals Corner Cowboy Skillet. We have the infamous Frontier Skillet. Got that pipe nub right there, and sort of stick to your length or to your liking, and you're in the game. Now these two right here will be run for 1 more week, I believe, and then we're going to discontinue these. So if you want either one of these, get them now. We're making room for something else. At some future date, I may bring this one back. But these are in stock. If you want them, get on it. And lastly, we have the most popular, the Corporals Corner Folding Skillet. Once again, that link is in my video description box. Click on Etsy. We got 100 dropping right now. Now, here's the key takeaway. Practice, 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 and more practice. Practice will make you better. This can be done in your backyard. This can be done on your personal property. This can be done at an actual campsite where you pay and actually camp there, or it can be done out in the woods. But I would highly advise you to practice something like this in a controlled setting and then actually make it into an actual route and do route planning. This way, if you had to walk out of somewhere, you know how to. If you had to actually sit down because you're hurt and say, I got to find these resources and I can't walk that far, what do I do? Having a map on the ground that you can refer to might be not only a morale booster, but actually physically save your life for having to walk 1,000 meters in the wrong direction to look for resources that aren't there. Something to think about. On that note, let's get out of here. With that, all the gear in my videos can be found in 2 places. 1, my Amazon affiliate page, and 2, my Etsy store. Both links are found inside my video description box. Now please do me that favor. Hit that like and subscribe button, and then ring that notification bell. Once you ring that bell, please select all notifications. And as always, thank you for your comments, views, and support. Thanks for watching. Get out in the field, have some fun. I'm going to catch you next time.